All right, welcome back to Digital Perspectives, everybody. I'm Brad Kimes. You can follow me on Twitter above at Backup Bradley at the top of the screen. And it is a very special honor and privilege. We have the one and only Mickey B. Fresh in the house. Mickey, how are you?
I'm great, Brad. Glad to be back on the show.
Oh,
we got a lot of great things to talk about today. A lot of new events have happened. I'm excited. It's going to be a good show.
it is going to be a good show. So this morning, I did a show with Cryptopolis, and we went over a lot of stuff that was happening, a lot of these IPOs that are taking place, talked about the Fed a little bit. We also talked about Escrow. He had a question for you about the Escrow of XRP, and he wanted me to ask you if you could take out a XRP wallet early, or if they could be sold or released early, I believe was the question. And I'm I'm getting it, but do you know the answer to that?
Yeah, so I watched the stream. It was a great stream. What he asked was, so when we say escrow, it's a general term. There's multiple escrows, but the escrow he was referring to was the Ripple's escrow and how it gets released every month. Can future months be broken is basically what I gathered he was asking. Can they be released early? So from my understanding and from my research, the answer is no. You can't break the escrow. It's cryptographically secured and it can't be changed.
Okay.
But those wallets that the escrow is released to can be sold.
Aha.
But it can't come early. So they can't just boom, 50 billion. So the whole point of putting the escrow away was so that it gave the market confidence that it couldn't get dumped. So if there was a way for them to change it, that would go against all of that. So no, you can't change the escrows. It's escrow is basically a smart contract.
Got it. Okay. Very good to know that. So let's talk about escrow.
So speaking of escrows, when we say the word escrow, I think as the XRP community, we all think of, Ripple's escrow that they have locked up in 55 different months. It's released 1 billion, right?
Yep.
Now, the escrows, when it's released, could go into another escrow.
Right.
After that. And those wallets that it released into could also be sold. So there's many different ways that the escrow could be used. What did you specifically want to know about the escrow?
Well, I'll tell you what. First of all, I'm glad we addressed the escrow, whether it could be early or not, or released, and the wallets can be sold that the escrow is released to. I think that's an important thing to make people aware of as well, right? How about moving now to liquidity pools and automated liquidity pools? Let's talk about that and drill down on that for a second.
Absolutely. So I think that's one thing that we're going to see play out. So we know Miguel Villas recently left and he built up his capital markets and liquidity providers and FX providers. But what we see on the exchanges when an ODL transaction goes through, that purchase, the liquidity is not being provided by the exchange. Bitso doesn't provide that liquidity. It's coming from a market maker who most likely has it, and this is slight speculation, but it does fit in with the tech. Liquidity pools. So if you're going to ramp up this ODL RippleNet network, you need to be sure that that liquidity is there. Now, David Schwartz has said this, and this is in 2018. He said one day there's just going to be liquidity pools that anyone could draw off of. So he has already told us this. So they're building a next generation financial system. You're going to use next generation financial tech. They're not just going to the Bitstamp ordering book and hoping liquidity is there. No, within RippleNet, there's liquidity pools that they could draw off. And then those who have put XRP into those liquidity pools then earn a percentage on that. That's basically what an automated liquidity pool is. right?
Got it.
And we could take some of this information of looking at what's going on in Ethereum with the whole DeFi space. Yes, it's a big experiment there. It's all retail oriented, but that tech is the bleeding edge, cutting edge technology that you're going to see then used in an enterprise institutional way with Ripple. So when Ripple says lending, it's not just, we're not peer-to-peer lending to SMEs. We're talking about decentralized financial infrastructure.
Yeah.
That's what's being built inside of Ripple now. So with lending, and you combine liquidity pools and the staking in there and the escrow that could be released as monetary policy to pay the interest on those who are staking, there's an unlimited amount of possibilities that could be created with having the seigniorage of basically half the supply, these liquidity pools, and then a global payment network of market takers. Because you need those market takers to draw off the liquidity pool. You can't just have a liquidity pool and speculative traders. It's that third leg of the stool, like Vias talked about. You need the market takers.
Yeah, somebody's got to want to participate, and somebody's got to want to take from the market and use it. Absolutely.
Exactly. So all we've had so far really has been speculators. And market makers don't make as much profit as if they had payment volumes just coming through consistently who are buying that asset for the utility of it to settle it into another fiat currency. They're not just buying and selling for spec trading.
Right.
Yes, that'll continue to exist, but once you add that in, you're going to draw a whole ton of market makers and liquidity providers. We see SBI just invested $30 million to basically buy out almost B2C2, which is a prime brokerage.
Absolutely.
Now that's who the hedge funds, the institutional traders and banks are going to use. They're not going to go just to Coinbase or Bitstamp and buy from them. That's never going to happen. That's not how traditional markets work. They're going to go through the prime brokerages who are going to then have the liquidity themselves or going to tap directly into a market maker who also does make markets on different exchanges. So that's one thing about the plumbing. I just want people to understand it's not Bitstamp, it's not Bitso who provide the liquidity. And we got this from the Flash FX interview with Crypto Erie. They provide the liquidity. There's their own order book within RippleNet that provides the price feeds for ODL.
So everybody needs to understand that the chain of events and the chain of players throughout the liquidity provision is not simply an exchange.
Yes. The exchange is just the trading platform and the gateway onto the XRP ledger, and they send it over the XRP ledger to the other exchange in the foreign country. Then that gets converted into fiat. But they're not the ones providing liquidity. Bitso actually is a licensed exchange with Gibraltar. And in that license, it says conflict of interest if they provide liquidity and run an exchange. Right. So there might be some shady exchanges doing this, but the big ones are not providing the liquidity. And I think that's a big misconception of how we as a community look at the market. It's too much focus on the exchanges, not enough on where the liquidity is getting aggregated from, or the provision, like you said, liquidity.
Yeah, that's a really great point you're making there. So, all right, so we have a couple things that we could cover here. One is Quartz Tata. We want to talk about them. Another thing we want to talk about too is the relationship between Ethereum and the XRP Ledger that we see developing more and more and more. Where do you want to start here?
Let's touch on the Ethereum thing. I thought that was really interesting, and I'll come back to the lending and Miguel Vias.
You got it.
Okay, so recently the Beachhead white paper came out, which is the gaming platform that's going to be built on Ethereum and the XRP Ledger. So in the white paper, it talks about a dual blockchain that they're going to use. So the trading engine is going to be part of the XRP Ledger. So their token is going to be the BH20 on the XRP Ledger, and it's going to be called the BHERC20 on the Ethereum network. What was really fascinating about this, which takes it to like the next level, is there's this gateway, or what I call a tunnel with like a toll, that connects the XRP Ledger to the Ethereum blockchain, where an ERC20 token can move over to the XRP Ledger, not physically. It transforms then into a BH20 token, and it's locked on the Ethereum Ledger. And now we see this with Flare Network doing the same thing, running Ethereum smart contracts using XRP Ledger addresses. So there's this massive tunnel of gateway being built between these two ledgers, which is really fascinating, of how we're going to see the DeFi and the whole ecosystem start to converge. So everything won't be in Ethereum's walled garden. I thought that was really cool. And the fact that Ethereum doesn't have a DEX built into it. Yeah, they have a bunch of layer 2 DEXs, but you know what? The XRP Ledger protocol is a real-time gross settlement exchange with a marketplace. And that's where the trading engine and liquidity will come from, not from Ethereum.
Yeah, and I think it's an important point for us to drill home that, you know, XRP is this universal ledger, and what you're seeing with the interoperability of the ETH network and the XRP ledger is we're really seeing that how they physically are going to mirror each transaction to exist on the ledger, which, you know, obviously if something gets spent from one side of the ledger to the other, it's all wiped out and it's matched, but it's matched or paired, however you want to say it, to where it exists on Ethereum, it exists on the XRP ledger, and this brings the interoperability to be able to cross this information over onto a more interoperable ledger. Now, I want to go into this question because we talked about this offline, but I see a lot of companies, I mean, we're seeing a lot of companies saying we're going with Ethereum for what we're doing, and we're going with Ethereum. And of course, I get a lot of people in the comments on the videos going, I guess I should have bought more Ethereum, you know, but, you know, I have to say, I feel like there's still a great question that's got to be answered here about Ethereum, because I don't want to spit in the face of all of these companies saying our supply chain is going to be done through Ethereum. The World Economic Forum has cited that Ethereum is going to be a heavily used protocol by their own writings for supply chains. But here we have Ethereum as proof of work. It's scheduled at some point in the future to switch to proof of stake 2.0. But yet we don't know if that's going to work either. I mean, I don't know. Mickey, I said it to you earlier, and I'm going to say it here on camera, is that, you know, if I'm company Brad and I am importing and sending goods over and I'm using supply chain, I'm going to get on Ethereum, and somebody says, so I hear you're using a new network, and I say, yeah, I'm using Ethereum. Be like, oh, that's great. So when do you start using it? Well, we can't use it yet because they're switching over to 2.0. Oh, well, what's 2.0? Oh, well, that's proof of stake. And it was like, well, what does that mean? Well, they're going to stake the coins. We all know what proof of stake is, right? But the reality is that it hasn't existed live yet. Am I missing something?
No, you're not missing. You're right on. It's from my understanding, it's not just a flip of a switch. It's like a 2-year transitional period that this has to happen, and it's been delayed over and over. So don't get me wrong. Ethereum has the probably most adoption in the sense of applications being 100%. Built on it, and layer 2. And then you have the private Ethereums that use the same standard protocols that Ethereum uses. But the problem is the public blockchain, they need to rip out the consensus layer and then put in a whole new consensus layer, remove the miners, transition over to proof of stake. Now that is a lot of uncertainty. That's
the word.
Work,
that's the word.
If it's going to work correctly, how long is it going to take? So there's a lot of uncertainty in that there. Now, what Ethereum is capable of is nothing that other networks are not capable of too. and even the XRP Ledger. Now, the original designers of the XRP Ledger, your Stephen Thomases, your David Schwartz, the guy Vinny Falco, some other people have all said we purposely didn't build the business logic and the smart contracts into the ledger because we didn't want it to only be used for just within the XRP or Ripple ecosystem.
Right.
We wanted to abstract that out, and they created Codius. Codius is not dead. If somebody tells you Codius is dead, they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So Codius is able to abstract that and be able to connect all the ledgers together in coordination with an ledger protocol. The word coil is Codius and ILP combined, which is an interesting tidbit. So by using Codius, and now that they have PolySign blockchain that they're building, they're going to be able to connect all the ledgers, your Hyperledger, your Ethereum private networks, your Ethereum public networks. So they're building these gateways, and like what Blockset is building with BRD, they're able to extract the data and the information by just connecting to different nodes on different networks. And this is that idea of the internet of value. This is what they've always been trying to do. Interledger protocol is one component of that.
Right.
But there's other pieces on top that need to connect to the actual nodes of Ethereum. I just struggle to see Ethereum being the only winner in this. And I think they have the biggest market share now, but I think they're going to start losing. This is my opinion, not financial advice. Losing market share to your Cardanos, to your VETs, to the XRP Ledger, to the Hyperledgers. I think they're going to start pulling from that. Ethereum, in my opinion, is the big experiment.
Yeah, I think you make such a wonderful point. And uncertainty is the word, right? I don't want to say that I'm, you know, I don't discount it because they are, like you said, very successful. There's more people building on that network than anything else currently right now, or at least up until this point. And I do believe that there's going to be a lot of challengers to that. ADA, VET, you know, at XRP itself, because XRP could do smart contracts. People don't talk about it a lot, but, you know, but there is a lot of uncertainty, and with a migration into this proof of stake, which I think is a good move. But, you know, at this time when the internet is really just starting to take off here, of value, internet of value, you know, it just seems like the worst time to do an upgrade or to even need to.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult. I think we're going to see, and we can't deny right now, the majority of the mining power of Ethereum is in China. It's like 60. It's a very high number. I think it was even higher than Bitcoin.
Sure.
So all that concentration is in China. Now, are those miners going to want to give up their mining rigs and all this, and now they got to transition to proof of stake? I mean, there's some documents out there that say you could earn 12% on Ethereum and this and this. I just think there's a lot of competition coming their way, where when you look at something like XRP, they're focused on one use case, which is the cross-border payments. But then you got this $500 million that they invested in Spring to build the infrastructure for all the other stuff that's being done on Ethereum too. The DeFi, the gaming, the web monetization, the wallets, all that is coming, but it's going to be done in the right way where it can interact with other blockchains, traditional ledgers, capital markets, tokenization, where Ethereum is kind of its walled garden, but this tunnel that they're building, or bridge, gateway with a toll, is going to break down that walled garden. And then you can use, like Flair said, Ethereum smart contracts on the XRP Ledger with an XRP account and private public key. The same thing you could do there, but you don't got to deal with proof of work. You don't got to deal with all that other stuff. And you can still do it there and tap into the ledger for liquidity. The problem with Ethereum is you have all these different layer 2 DEXs. Everyone wants to create a DEX. They're all trying to combine them together. Well, why not just have one? And then you can abstract it out into private networks. That's what makes the XRP Ledger so special, and why David Schwartz says it. It is a real-time gross settlement exchange and marketplace with gateways that tap into the outside world. Ethereum does not have that. And that's why Sologenic chose XRP Ledger and not Ethereum.
That's, yeah, no doubt. Well said. And Sologenic has got some news they were talking about. You and I spoke before we went live too about the interface. Talk about this for a second, if you could.
Yes, this was really interesting. So they're coming out with state-of-the-art UI interface for the XRP Ledger DEX. So when we look at a DEX, in the beginning days, Ripple had, it was all big public order book. Everyone could see everything. That's changing. You could abstract that out. That's what RippleNet is. Has its own order book running on the Ripple protocol. Now, Sologenic is a gateway that connects the capital markets, the brokerage they're going to use, the custodian, to the XRP Ledger. Now, you're going to be able to trade. All these applications are getting built. We just don't have the level of applications being built yet. We don't see them yet live for the XRP Ledger, where Ethereum has a lot of applications, or distributed applications. That's what Spring is building, infrastructure for those applications to be built, like Sologenic. Once they have this UI interface right into their wallet, you could buy and trade with KYC, AML, whitelisted, everything right on the XRP Ledger's DEX. It's just abstracted out to have the KYC, because the gateway handles all of that.
Right.
And that's what Sologenic is. I think that's really cool, and we're going to see that with e-commerce. So there were 3 use cases for the gateways. And just because Ripple doesn't talk about the gateways anymore, it does not mean they don't exist. They absolutely exist. Every member on RippleNet is a gateway. Bitso, gateway. Bitstamp is a gateway. These are gateways that have access to the ledger, but they're abstracted out into RippleNet, which is the private messaging overlay network, still running the same Ripple protocol. So sometimes when we hear the word Ripple, it's not Ripple Labs, but the XRP Ledger is the Ripple protocol. So it's all the same. It's just a bunch of protocols that make up the Ripple protocol. And then decentralized exchange with pathfinding, it's an automated order book with auto bridging. That all exists on RippleNet. That's how ODL works. And it's why XRP and XLM can be bridge assets and Bitcoin can't be. There's a lot of talk, well, any crypto could be a bridge asset. No, not every crypto could be a bridge asset. You need a gateway onto the ledger, off the ledger. And some of the issues they had with the gateways was securing the private keys and dealing with, do they have the assets that they're issuing on the ledger for tokenizing IOUs? Now, PolySign is going to solve that whole problem with the security and the authentication of those assets. And that's like the missing link that's coming. And once that happens, tokenization is going to explode. And we'll be able to cross over from Ethereum to XRP Ledger, all interconnected, and it's all towards the vision of the Internet of Value. So these gateways, we see like, when we use the word gateway, it could be a gateway like the CGI Intelligent Gateway, which connects maybe to Swift. And then there's this Ethereum gateway that connects to Ethereum. And it could be one to Hyperledger. So there's a lot of different gateways. They're basically just, it could also include ILP connectors, because that's what a gateway is as well.
Well, right, yeah. So you're making an excellent point, because this is the end goal. And one of the things I've been trying to really stress a lot whenever I get the chance to is that we have conversations, we see conversations go on a lot, social media and everywhere else, about XRP and the price of the token and where it can get to. But the real conversation that's going to move price is about the adoption of the ledger, because the adoption of the ledger is where people are going to collateralize, transact across, place assets on, tokenize, this whole thing. And this becomes the new Internet of Value and obviously the new financial system as well. So this is a huge topic. Let's expand now and go into the conversation about the XRP Ledger, Mickey, and the Escrow. And let's talk about Susan Athey a little bit here today. So we're shifting gears, everybody. So let's get into this notion. Now, you and I have had numerous discussions about how the price gets to be the price and there are many factors that contribute to price. Where do you want to start to unpack this thing? You want to start with the three legs of the stool? How do you want to go into this, Mickey?
Well, three legs of the stool and then price discovery.
Okay, let's go there. I think that's a nice way to unfold it. You start.
All right. So the one question that we've all asked, Christopoulos has asked, you have brought up numerous times, and we're all curious of, well, where is price discovery going to come from? And a lot of people just say, oh, yeah, utility. Well, that's a very generic answer. And there's more to it than that. So one thing that we have to look to is this system that's being built is for the future. It needs to last the next decade and beyond. So we're not going to use the same tech that's in legacy right now, the same old manual order books that like the stock exchange uses and that. So one aspect that we know, Susan Athey, who's a board member and Stanford professor and world-renowned expert, is on auctions.
And I'm going to pull her picture up while you're talking about that, because here she is.
Now taking auctions to the next level when you're using smart contracts. And we know PolySign is a third-generation private blockchain, which is going to include smart contracts. So this is, warning here, slight speculation, but in my opinion, and Brad, to build on the whole, how does the price get set and how do we get market discovery? So one concept that I've been toying with and researching is the idea of when the escrow is released every month, there's unique types of auctions that could be used to set that price. So there could be this auction specifically, for example, is called the, one second.
The Vickery Clark Groves auction?
That's it. Vickery Clark Groves auction.
Gotcha.
So, I'm sorry, one second.
Yeah.
Is a type of sealed bid auction where bidders submit written bids without knowing the bid of the other people in the auction. The highest bidder wins, but the price paid is the second highest bid. Now, what's interesting about this is just one type of auction, but there's many, is this would help price discovery. So when the escrow is released monthly, this could have been going on in the past. We don't know it. And it definitely, I see it happening in the future, where there's these private bids by institutional members, RippleNet, liquidity providers, investment banks, whoever they are, that bid on the escrow and the price, and then that sets the price. That would be then disclosed publicly what the escrow was sold at, X amount of in dollars.
Right.
Maybe through the NASDAQ or whoever, but that would ripple through the institutional markets, the retail, and that would basically give us price discovery, because these are what the big institutions are paying for the asset. Now, that could also be determined on how much demand there is for XRP in the network from the third stool, the market takers. So as payment volume increases, they're taking more XRP from the market. So the supply needs to be increased or the price has to go up. So there's going to be more demand for XRP from the bidding. It would just, like bathwater, it would raise it up, because the demand is what raises price, not the utility. Utility increases the demand, which increases the price.
That's right.
Now, that's just one use case. As other use cases come in, you could tie this all in with lending, and we could get into that after. But this was one scenario where it makes an ideal sense of how to use the escrow. And one thing that I've stated for months and months and months to a year, and a lot of Bitcoin maxis and other people just don't understand, the escrow is the Ripple escrow is the most advantageous aspect of the XRP ecosystem.
Absolutely.
The fact that it could be used in all these different flexible verticals to create price discovery, to pay interest on liquidity pools for market making.
Yes.
It's going to create more value for the network. There's too much of this, oh, well, the escrow is just there for dumping. But what's happening in reality, it's the exact opposite. They're done funding. That's what its initial use was for. Now you have half the supply, which is going to be used to create value for the protocol and the network, which will then be expressed through the token.
Absolutely. And I think it's, I think it's proper to note too that, but what was it, 2017 when they did the accelerator program? They pre-allocated $300 million worth of XRP to incentivize the market makers in different areas. And Bob Way and I talked about that on my show. We talked about that to incentivize the market maker. And even Miguel Villas has spoken about seigniorage, right? When you incentivize the market maker to use the asset. This is a mature way of priming the pump for what becomes the flywheel eventually, is it not? I mean,
absolutely. And they're going to be able to do it where it's in a type of autonomous way, where the smart contracts or protocols that could be enhanced. Like we see the ledger keeps getting enhanced and enhanced and enhanced. What's been enhanced on the Bitcoin network or Ethereum? Not much.
Right.
So all these things, once you bring in PolySign, is going to be able to add to what could be done. And it is priming the pump because it's setting up the future of what's to come, because we don't know exactly where the market will be in 5 years. So how Bitcoin has a set structure of the miners get this amount and then it halves every 5 years, but that was decided without knowing where the market's going in the future. With the escrow, they're able to keep it flexible, and then once we see where it's going, then you instill those protocols, that governance layer, and all those other things. So I think that's hard for a lot of people to see. All we see is right now, but I think the ledger is going to look a lot different in 5 to 10 years from now.
Absolutely.
A lot of enhancements, and and the whole point is to make it modular. So there's private networks that then tap into the XRP ledger's liquidity and use their protocols.
It's interesting to me because, when we think about a couple things, one, when David Schwartz gave the talk, I believe it was out at Stanford, about the best incentive is no incentive, it adds a lot more clarity to where we think of the possible price discovery or the auctioning of the escrow each month, potentially, whether it's now or in the future. And, when we hear David Schwartz also talk about how he believes that the current price of XRP is very fair where the price is, and very relative to what the market is speaking to about it. If they are in fact doing this auction, which Susan Athey has been a part of being a huge study of here, so I mean, it would make sense that maybe they are incorporating some element to this inside of that. Then this does really become the best incentive is no incentive, other than the demand of the people who are in the system who are going to need to use it, right? I mean, this is just...
Exactly. Well, you don't need to use the escrow for the consensus. And I think that's the important part, because proof of work, you need to use the supply to secure the network. Proof of stake, you need to use the supply to secure the network. By having no incentive for the consensus, you could now use the supply for other things, like monetary policies and liquidity pool interest paying out, and these auctions, which gives you price discovery. You can't get price discovery out of Bitcoin. All you have is a spec market.
In fact, these real quick, these auctions that we're discussing here, this Vickery style kind of approach, really is the monetary policy of... It appears to be what will become, if it's not already, the monetary policy for XRP long term. I mean, it just makes sense.
What it does is it creates a level playing field, and it's the most fair way for all the market participants, retail, institutional. Even if there is a separate institutional market and a separate retail, there's one price discovery for everybody.
Exactly. And did we highlight that it was the second highest bid that would win? Okay. I wanted to make sure. Okay.
Yeah, I can read it one more time, because that was this, it's speculation that this is just one type of auction, but there is hundreds of different types. There's new ones coming out all the time. When you combine this with smart contract technologies and protocols and access control, you're able to keep the bidders private from each other. So Santander doesn't know what SBI is bidding on it, depending on their demand for the asset. It seems like the most ideal way to get price discovery.
Blind bids with the second highest bidder being the winner, and that becoming price discovery for the asset long term or till the next round. Right? I mean,
absolutely.
That's to me, it just sounds like good, sound, fundamental monetary policy is what it sounds like.
Exactly, because you got to look at like in a macro view of how the Fed and them do things. There's basically no oversight. It's a couple people around a room decide this is what they're going to do, and that's it. It's not based upon all the data. They try to input the data and what the demand is, but it's really just trying. But with this, you have new technologies like machine learning, AI, that could pinpoint the exact levels of how much demand there is for the asset, for the payment volume going through, and other use cases. So the convergence of these other technologies on a network that is a third entry accounting system, which is very important, can keep track of all this, and they could crunch that data. When I say data, it's not about the privacy thing and all that. It's the data that's coming out of the network that could be used then to give a representation of what the demand is. Then the monetary policies are basically automated from that. And then you have the human input of, well, how do these companies going to use this asset? Well, it's from the demand that they need for their payments. And this is where we see new business models coming from.
Absolutely. And I want to read this really quick because I have a profile of Susan Athey up here. The economist of technology professor of economics, School of Humanities Sciences, senior fellow, Stanford Institute for Economic Policy Research. It says here under her research statement here, Susan Athey's research is in areas of industrial organization, microeconomic theory, and applied econometrics. Her current research focuses on design of auction-based marketplaces and the economics of the internet, primarily online advertising and the economics of the news media. She's also studied dynamic mechanisms in games with incomplete information, comparative statistic under uncertainty, and economic metrics methods for analyzing auction models. Now, I mean, the research interests are economics of internet, economics of news media, platform markets, online advertising, so on and so on. You get it. This is a good fit. I mean, this is the same Susan Athey that designed the XRP calculator,
Exactly. Great point right there. And she's also an expert in machine learning. And Ripple has 40 plus, universities working on research.
Yes.
So what kind of research do you think that they're working on? They're not diddle-dallying about what is a blockchain. I mean, they're getting to the next level. These are world-renowned professors and talking to the MITs, the Stanfords, the Berkeley Haas.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the girl from the Berkeley Haas who's head of the World Economics Blockchain hosting a Ripple Ubri event. I mean, this is all intertwined. This is the next gen financial system. So we don't have the problems of the Fed just doing whatever they feel like doing. And then it has these negative effects on the rest of the country. Everyone knows the rules. It's automated by the data coming out of the network. It's its own economy they're building here in a way. And it doesn't have to worry about a mandate of unemployment or a mandate of, whatever the other mandate is for the Fed, I forgot.
Right. No,
inflation levels. But we have half the supply, so they can. I just think that's the most advantageous part. And now you have an expert on auctions. She's been on the board for almost 7 years.
No, it's remarkable to find this out about her and to know that, obviously she's extraordinarily brilliant. And she's got some amazing ideas, and every time we hear her speak, we're always fascinated. So it'll be interesting to see if any of this has been put to work into the system, no doubt about it. Now, let me change gears for a second, Mickey, because we're about 40 minutes in, and I don't want to go too long, and I want to start telling everybody, and you and I talked about this too, we're going to try to have you on the show regularly, like at least once every 2 weeks, and just kind of grab some material and come on. So I know we got a few things we might not touch today, but we'll get to them on the next show. But I want to bring you to IPOs for a second.
Yes.
I want to bring you to IPOs, and I want to talk about the fact I really do believe that, we're entering the crypto.com era of IPOs. I mean, Coinbase has said they're preparing to launch, they're walking towards it at least. We know Uphold is certainly going to IPO. They're selling pre-IPO stock. Ripple's selling pre-IPO stock. Talk to me. Let's get some of Mickey B's input here.
Absolutely. I think the IPO thing is huge. Let's just touch Miguel Villa's interview yesterday. I just want to throw my take in there with that.
Absolutely.
So one thing that, besides him saying it would be foolish not to see the value in XRP, he said that he signed an enormous amount of confidential documents when he left. Not one document, not two, an enormous amount, I believe is the word, or something like that.
It was a lot, yeah.
And he also said he wasn't privy to any of the IPO or the fundraising. Mm-hmm. So we have to ask, what is so confidential that he has to sign so many documents on NDAs? And he's not the only one who said this. We know that R3 has an NDA. So us speculating about other things is founded in there obviously information that we do not know that is being kept private. Right. And now what's interesting is once this IPO for Ripple comes, we're going to get maybe not all of it, but a good chunk of that information released publicly in the prospectus. If it's a confidential one or it's a regular one, it'll still come to the public in just, different time periods, right?
You just have less time to look at it if it's
less time. So Coinbase going first, I think is perfect. I think it's ideal. It gets one out of the way to see how the market reacts. And there's no doubt Ripple's going to IPO much higher than Coinbase is, as they have a much larger business model than Coinbase has.
Right.
In my opinion, there's multiple verticals they could go from. They have this boatload of XRP that they could use. They have all different investments spread out from retail to institutional. Coinbase going first, I think will happen this year. And like Kritopoulos talked about, they're having that investor meeting in August. And this is coming soon. Yeah. And it's going to open up the floodgates. And I see Ripple being number 2 or 3. That we're not far off from this. This is coming soon.
I don't think it's far off either. I mean, I've not been shy about it. I do feel like it's coming. And look, I'll be happy to be wrong. I mean, I don't need to be right, but I've gotten comfortable, as you are too, of just saying, I think this may happen. And I do believe.
Miguel Diaz said it too.
Yeah. He thinks it's going to happen soon too. He'd be shocked if he didn't IPO, right?
Exactly.
So yeah. And I mean, that's just, the understanding, but I mean, it does speak really, really loudly when he said he was, because I even spoke about this on the channel too, when he said he didn't even know about the last Series C fundraising round until after it happened. And it made you realize it was like, and he said, it was not to dupe anybody, but Brad had been very clear publicly in meetings that, this is the way we handle things. You focus on your task. And over here, they focus on their task, and we'll let you know when, it's a, what I mean? So everybody stays focused on what they're doing, and whoever needs to know about the big picture is probably sitting in that boardroom. Would you not imagine that?
Absolutely. Great point. The people, if Brad Garlinghouse keeping that all to himself, it's the board of directors and Brad Garlinghouse. It's not like Ashish Burla knows about what's going on, or Corey Johnson. They are not privy to that. It's the board of directors and Brad Garlinghouse, maybe the CFO or somebody else, and maybe David Schwartz. But that's the only people who are privy to that. The board of directors runs the show.
Yeah.
And look at our board of directors. That's like the elite of the elite, and it's spread out in a perfect balance of who you have from a world-renowned auction machine learning professor from Stanford to Trump's good friend.
It's unbelievable, right?
To the New York Financial Department's former head, to Anaya Manuel, who has the foreign expertise in the Asian markets with China. I mean, it's perfectly designed. And Brad Garlinghouse wrote a blog post on that a couple months ago. It kind of went under the radar, but the board is they steer the ship. So they're the ones who are making this IPO decision. And it seems like it's coming. And I mean, I think we have to bring it up. I personally think that there's going to be, Ripple has this opportunity now to bridge the traditional markets with crypto. By doing the IPO alone, you do that because Ripple is tied to XRP, and this IPO will then separate them from it. But what would separate it even more is if you had, I'm not saying that the IPO itself is going to be issued in security tokens. I don't think that. I think it'll be traditional, but I do think that we're going to see tokenized versions of that stock fairly quick after the IPO, if not during the IPO, because the XRP Ledger was designed to issue assets on. That's what one of its main goals and purposes when it was designed. It hasn't been used to its full functionality yet because of certain security measures of the gateways and managing the keys and authentication. That's where PolySign comes in. That'll solve all those problems. So I think we will see tokenized Ripple shares then in the same wallet that you hold XRP. Yeah, you might have a whitelist and you'll KYC and all that, but I think that's going to all be built into these digital wallets. That's if it's a corporate digital wallet, like Standard Custody's coming out with, or it's a digital wallet like Uphold that will have everything in it. Then you'll have all your dApps and your financial services, your DeFi, your lending, your borrowing, your staking, all will be able to done from your rock solid, bulletproof digital wallet.
It's remarkable.
But to speculate on who's going to be running the IPO, can I just throw this out there?
Oh, yeah, please do. Yeah.
I think this one, it's been known for a while. I know you said Goldman was one possibility, but then we got to remember Zoe Cruz is special advisor, and she's deep in with Morgan Stanley. And there was an interview with, I think, the woman from Wyoming somebody said that Ripple went to Morgan Stanley years ago and spoke to them. So they're another consideration here for an IPO.
Certainly.
And that guy that was on the roundtable with, do you remember that one with Jim Rickards? And he mentioned Ripple being what we'll trade against. Well, he's from Morgan Stanley too, and he brought an FX trading. So I think Morgan Stanley is one that we do need to also think about, since Zoe Cruz is the connection there, and she basically runs a big department there. So that's one aspect. And then there's to consider who else is involved in RippleNet, because this is going to merge the two together. It's going to bring all of Wall Street eyes on Ripple, and what does Ripple build on? I think they want to have the use case for XRP completely solidified, and they want to have all the infrastructure pretty much built, and then the applications could come. So there is an obvious acquisition or something that Brad has given away, right?
Yep.
You see that?
I do.
I think we're on the brink of seeing something like that. And then the rollout of the spring applications, I think we're on the cusp of the web monetization. And just another tidbit to throw out, the IETF, which is the standard body for something of the internet too, at PayID, is trying to standardize their 3 or 4 protocols that are within PayID.
Very nice.
There's a lot of standardization going on behind the scenes, like distributed exchanges, custodian systems. They're trying to standardize the secure messaging between the virtual asset exchanges. Like all that kind of needs to be tied in and done for this IPO, so that they could, when Ripple says, hey, here's our business model in the prospectus, what are they not telling us still? So what is the tech that's giving them a $12 billion valuation? And that doesn't include their holdings. Bob Way said that's only worth like 2 cents. So eliminate that out. Why are you worth 12 billion? So everyone's like X current, X via, X rapid. There's a lot more going on in there that we don't know about.
That's a great point, and we got to wrap, Mickey, but you make a great point to leave on, and I think it goes to the further point, too, about the NDAs and why people who were there or even leave there, have so many NDAs and so many papers to sign because there is so many things that are connected and going on because we're aware that, if nothing else, it is massive what is happening behind the scenes there. We all know enough to know that. That is for sure.
Absolutely.
Mickey B, we're going to be on a regular rotation, my friend. Yeah, we're going to make this happen once every 2 weeks at very least, and we're going to have you back on the show. It is just so nice to get you on here and to get the information out and the things that you're finding. You and everybody in the deep dive room is just amazing. I know Dave has been on fire here lately. Shout out to him. And I know
Dave's been great.
We all kind of go through cycles where, things get busy and then you hit a stride and then you got to get back into your life again. Then you get to hit a stride. But it's an amazing group of people. And I'm really grateful for everybody in there as well as yourself.
Yes. Thank you for having me on. And next show, I think we should, we got some information on where we think PolySign's going with what they're doing. So we could start digging into that because the word custody is too generalized. What they're doing is beyond custody.
We will definitely do that, and Standard Trust Company aside from that too. So let's plan on that. Next show is a PolySign and continued conversation, my friend.
Yes, and decentralized market infrastructure.
Awesome. Yes, decentralized. Right. Yeah, you got it. All right, Mickey B. Fresh, everybody. Hit that like and subscribe. Share with somebody you know. We'll catch you all on the next one. Take care.
Thank you, Brad. Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you, my brother. I'll catch you on the next one. Great job, man.
Thank you.